So hello, this is Rosa. So today we're going to go over math, right? Frequently, easy for you to say, frequently asked questions about math, right? And so we're going to do this whole series on that. And you're more than welcome to, if you're in the class right now, to ask me questions. So the first thing we want to go over is talking about the calculator, right? So how many of you have your calculator with no functionality keys? And I'm not talking about this, your phone. Can you use that in the state exam? Can you bring your phone into that state exam? Yes or no? Hello.
Oh,
No, you can't. So
No.
everybody show me your calculator. Who doesn't have it? So what I need you to do today, get used to doing your math on your own calculator, right? And it has to be kind of like that little solar calculator that costs you $4 at Five Below, or go to Target or Walmart or Amazon. And it basically just should have addition, subtraction, multiplication, and so forth on it. You cannot have a calculator with functionality keys in the state exam. Okay, they won't let you do it. Okay, and what they're going to do is when you go in there to take the state exam, they're going to give you a locker and you have to put your phone in there. Well, you don't have to put your phone in there. You could keep it in the car, right? But you cannot bring your phone in the classroom with you. So if you don't have a calculator and you want to use one of theirs, well, first of all, there's this thing. I don't know if anybody's heard of it. It's called coronavirus, right? And who knows what's on those other calculators. You could be like, oh, I'll wipe it down. But maybe the last person who had that calculator, they had some peanut butter on their fingers, and now there's some jelly, and now there's some sticky keys, right? And you're using somebody that maybe 4 other people use that same calculator, and you probably don't want to do that. So go get a calculator this weekend. And that way, as we're doing these math concepts, as we're doing practicing on math, you will be able to use your own calculator, get used to using it, and then you can bring it to the state exam with you. Does that make sense? Who has questions on that? All right. So the first math question, and we're going to do a lot with me sharing the screen here, right? But the first one we're going to do is one of the favorites of real estate agents. And that's the wonderful world of what? Commission, moolah, right? So that's what people like. So let's start doing, I'm going to do a little screen share, get the little whiteboard going here, right? And let's start doing some math on commissions. Does that sound good to everyone? All right. So the first one being is calculating commissions. So we're going to use an example, and I'm going to try to make this as nice and neat as possible, right? But let's say as an example, a property, right, sold for $210,000, right? Now, the commission paid is 6.5%. Okay, so what we want to know is how much is the commission, right? Make sense? Any questions so far, right? So what a lot of times people have questions or issues with is this whole thing about percent, right? This whole thing about how to deal with decimal points. So what we need to know back in the olden days, I don't know if you did math the way I did it, right? But what would basically happen is we would move whenever we saw the percent sign, we would move the decimal point to the left 2 times. Why? Because a percent, like CENT, century, that's 100. Well, 100 has 2 zeros in it. So we would move this decimal point right here between 6.5%. We'd move it over once and twice. So really, you got to get this in your mind. This is a basic of math, right? That decimal point basically means 0.065. And you could put it in your calculator, whichever way you feel. There's both different ways to do it, but that's why you need your own calculator, so that you will know how to use your calculator and feel the most comfortable with it, right? So what you're probably going to do with this wonderful calculator is, first of all, you're going to put in what? We're going to take the how much the property sold for, which is $210,000, right? Then we're going to either use the multiplication key on your calculator, right? And then we're going to either put 6.5 and then type in the percentage sign, right? The percentage key on your calculator. Or you're going to do times what? 0.065. And what does that give you? Anybody know?
13,650.
Right? So 13,650 scamoles. Right? Now we're going to take it to the next level. Let's just say you're the salesperson and you are getting a 55% split from your broker, right? Now, remember, when it comes to real estate, there's two sides. There's what? The listing side, right? We call that a side. And then there is the what? Anybody know? The buyer side, right? Each one of them, usually, if it's single agency, they have their own broker. Right? There's different brokers. If it's dual agency, they're the same broker. But let's just say on the listing side, they're going to keep 4%, and they offered the buyer side in the multiple listing service 2.5%. Right? Now you see how that equals 6.5%? Does that make sense to everybody? Right, you see up here, we said here that the commission was 6.5% total. Who's got questions on that? So the way that it's being split up is that 4% is going to go to the listing, right? And 2.5% is going to go to the buyers. So when the listing agent put it in the multiple listing service, they offered the buyer broker 2.5%. So this $13,650 was the total commission, right? Just so you know. So let's say you, right, the salesperson, right, working on behalf of who? What side do you want to work on behalf of? Let's just say the seller. And the salesperson, commission split with broker is 50-50. Make sense to everybody? Who has questions so far? So then the question here is, how much will the salesperson make? Isn't that what you kind of want to know? Oh, yeah, right? So let's figure this out. Well, if you're the salesperson and you're working on behalf of the seller, you're basically working on the listing side. Does that make sense to everyone? Any questions on that? Okay. And so, and how much are you making?
The commission would be 8,400, and then the salesperson would get a 50 split of that, which would be 4,200, right?
Okay, so let's do the calculations. It sounds about right to me, right? So we're going to say, okay, well, if the sales price was $210,000, cool, right, times 4%, okay, what does that equal? $8,400, and that's basically what that would basically be the check after the closing that you're going to bring in to your broker, right? You're bringing a check in for $8,400, and then you're going to get half of that, So in let's say in a perfect world, right? So $8,400 times 0.5, right? Half equals what?
4,200.
4,200. So who has questions about this? Because now I'm going to have you do one on your own. But does everyone feel comfortable with this? All right. Well, get ready, my friends. So get out some paper and your calculators and all that good stuff. So if the property sold for 460,000 and the commission was 6%, right? And so let's see here. You're a salesperson and you're working on behalf of the buyer. And your commission, you're getting 60, right? You're getting 60 and the broker is getting 40. Okay, because you are like a master salesperson, right? So you're getting 60. Just remember, salesperson. I want to put that in there because I know somebody's going to be like, oh, I thought the broker was going to get it. Salesperson is getting 60%. And the buyer's side, let's just say, is getting 3%. Whoa. So the question is how much, I'm going to give you a minute. The question is how much money will you be making? All right, so let's see how to calculate this. So basically, just for the heck of it, I know you don't need to calculate this, but this was kind of like a 2-question type of thing. How much is the total commission? So what would we do? Anybody have an idea?
You can either multiply 460 by 6%, or you can multiply by just 3%, since that's what the buyer side's getting.
Yep. So a couple ways of doing it, just to kind of know, okay, so this transaction is basically generating $27,600. Okay. Now the salesperson is working on behalf of the buyer. So you see here, that's that wonderful world about that's the buyer side. Okay. And the commission split that they have with their broker is 60 going to the salesperson, 60%, right? Going to the salesperson, and 40% going to the broker. How much will the salesperson make? So like we said, in the multiple listing service, it's showing that the broker, the buyer broker, is going to get 3%. So how would we calculate this? We would do what? 460,000 times 3%, or 0.03. So does everybody see how that's the same number? 3% and 0.03 is the same number. Anybody have any questions on that? All right. So times 0.03, and that's going to give us what?
13,800.
Right? $13,800. So that is what, when you go to the closing, the attorney is going to hand you that check for your real estate company. So you're going to get that check and you're going to be all proud, and you're going to go into the broker and you're going to give them that check for $13,800. And then how much are you going to get from that?
8,280.
All right. So you're going to get 60% of that. Right? Or if we wanted to, we could put what? 0.6. Right? 0.6 is the same as 60%. Because I really am trying to make this clear, because I know that some people have questions on this. Some people have problems with this. So does anybody have questions on that? Right? And so then that's going to equate to what? $8,280. So does everybody get that? Does everybody feel comfortable? All right. So does everybody feel comfortable on the basics of percentages and maybe a little bit with the real estate commission? All right. Well, stop me if you have a question because I really want to make sure we go over it. So now the next thing we're going to talk about is linear measurements, right? You might have heard, for instance, in past classes that sometimes we talk about this whole thing about linear. Now, when we say linear, what word do you see inside of linear? Line. So think about as a line measurement. And when we're thinking about linear measurements, right, we're not thinking about the inside of something. We're thinking about the length of a something like feet or yards or inches or mile. And so some of these linear measurements might be what? Might be a foot, might be a linear foot, right? Might be what? They call it a running foot. They call it a running foot. These are all the same thing. Or they might call it a front foot, right? So you're talking about a measurement. So for instance, if I say, here is what my land, here's what my land looks like, right? And I talk about linear, am I talking about what's inside here? How many square feet the land is? Am I? No, right? What I'm talking about is if I was going to put as an example a fence, right? If I was going to put an example, a fence around this particular property, every foot around here, the red, right? The red line would be the whole thing about linear. Does that make sense? Linear measurements. Okay. And if I was talking about frontage or front foot, let's just say this right here is the road, right? Well, when we talk about frontage, we're going to be talking about the amount of frontage that we have along the road. The amount of frontage that we have along the road. So that's the frontage. And then this is how deep the property would be. It's technically, you know, a different measurement. This would be how deep the property would be. And this would be how deep the property would be. So who has questions on that so far? Okay. So let's kind of do some examples and talk about this type of thing. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little drawing here of this particular property, right? So here's the property, and this property is let's just say 100 feet by 50 feet. Okay, 100 feet by 50 feet. No, now I want to buy this land, but they told me that this land is going to cost me $18 per square foot. So how much will this land cost me? How much will this land cost me? That's going to be the question. So is everybody with me so far? How much will this land cost me? Okay. So we just talked a minute ago about linear, and now I just switched it up on you because we're going to go back and forth to make sure that your mind keeps understanding, okay, now I'm talking about area, now I'm talking about line, now I'm talking about area, now I'm talking about line. So this right here, what kind of measurement will we need? A line measurement or an area measurement?
Area.
Area, right? So this, we're talking about the inside, and we need an area measurement for this. Area measurement. And how will we get the area measurement for this piece of land? we're going to take what?
100 feet times 50 feet.
Yeah, we're going to take length times width. Length times width. So we're going to do what? 100 feet times 50 feet. And what's that going to give us?
5,000
5,000
5,000 what?
square feet.
square feet.
Square feet. And then we're going to have to figure out, okay, if I'm going to pay $18 per square foot times 5,000 square feet, how much will this land cost me?
90,000.
90,000.
All right, so that's going to cost me $90,000. So who has questions about this? Because now it's going to be time for you to do one on your own. Does everybody feel comfortable with doing an area measurement?
Yes.
Okay. So now, let me do a little erasing here. Before you do one on your own, I want to put up a fence. And I want a fence with a 6-foot gate, open gate.
Now you're getting tricky.
Yep. This is 6-foot open gate. Okay. So if I tell you that I want a fence over here, over here, over here, over here, and over here, and I want this fence to be what? Well, we got to get tricky, right? Fence around property. I already told you about the gate with 6-foot gate. Or no gate, technically, just 6-foot opening for gate. And then I want the fence to be 6 feet high. See, so just so you know, this apostrophe, or is it called an apostrophe, or does somebody have another word for it? You see that character there? That means feet. So this is the same as that, 6 feet high. Okay. So this fence is going to be around the entire property, and it's going to be 6 feet high. So technically, if you were to think about this, each foot, right, is going to be technically 6 feet high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You see what I'm saying? Because we have to think about it. There's going to be 2 questions. There's going to be a question about, and I know that doesn't look like a fence, but just think about it being up, straight up. Okay. So the whole point is that every square feet of fence is going to be 6 feet high. Every linear feet, I should say, is going to be 6 foot high. Another linear foot of fence is going to be 6 foot high. Another linear foot of fence is going to be 6 foot high. Another linear foot of fence is going to be 6 feet high. And you see it's going to go all around the entire property. Because the 2 questions that we have that's going to come along with this is to say, okay, well, materials are going to cost me $2.50 per square foot of fence. Everyone with me on that? $2.50 per square foot. So that's why I wanted to make it clear that every linear foot of fence is 6 feet high. And then the second question, and I know this is probably freaking out a little bit because we're going through so much, but it all comes together, is the labor to install the fence. Labor is what? $3 per linear foot, right? Linear foot of fence. They got to charge you per linear foot. So what does that mean? That means that every foot of fence, every linear foot, boom, that's another $3. 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 And then you're putting up 6 feet of fence, 6 feet of fence, 6 feet of fence, 6 feet of fence. So does that make sense to everyone? So far, who's got questions on this? Because now we want to figure out how much is the fence going to cost. Okay.
$5,292.
Okay. So let's do this together. All right. Let's do this together. I need some room here. Oops. I didn't mean to do that much room. Yeah, that's all right. All right. Okay. One more time. We'll just do it like that. Okay. So let's see. I can hopefully fit it around here. So the first calculation is materials. That's the first calculation. I'm going to have to put it up here because I didn't make myself enough room. So if we say $2.50 per square foot of fence, well, how many square feet of fence do we have? How do we figure that out? How many square feet of fence do we actually have? Well, the first thing we really kind of need to know is linear feet of fence total. Because we're going to have to basically do linear feet and then square foot, linear times square. But anyway, so let's think about this. If I was to start over here in this top right-hand corner, top left-hand corner. Let's start over here in this top left-hand corner. Everybody with me? And if we were to start, well, and I went all the way across here. How many feet is that?
100.
100 linear feet. And then I were to go down here. How many feet is that?
50.
50. And then if I was to go all across here, how many linear feet of fence?
94.
Why 94?
We get a 6-foot opening.
Because we got that 6-foot opening, so that would be 94. And then if I was to go back up here, how many feet of fence?
50.
50. So if we add all these together, what do we get? 4 plus
294.
so 294 linear feet. Does that make sense to everyone? Who's got questions on that? Okay, 294, and you see this L, linear feet of fence is what I need. Okay, so materials are $2.50 per square foot. So how do we figure out how many square feet of fence we have?
Multiply that by 6.
Multiply that by 6, because remember, every linear foot is 6 feet high. So who has questions about that? Because that's an important point to make. So what are we going to do? 294 linear feet times 6 feet high equals what?
1764.
Right? So that's 1,764 square feet of fence. And then we're going to take the 1,764 square feet of fence and multiply it times what?
2.5.
$2.50. Because that's how much the materials are. So technically the materials are what? $4,410 for materials. Make sense? All right. Now, when we talk about labor, right? We said it's $3 per linear foot of fence. So we have what? 294 linear feet times what?
$3.
$3 equals what? So 294 times $3 equals $882, right? For labor. And so how much is the total fence?
5,292.
Yep. Well. Cost of fence. All right, so I'm gonna erase this in a few seconds if anybody doesn't have any questions. So what kind of questions do you have about how to calculate area, right? So that we can calculate how much that was the cost of the land, right? Then we
Hey, Rob.
figured, go ahead. Then we figured out the fence. Then we figured out the materials and labor. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, don't know what I did. I've done just 2 steps. The first step, I figure out how. So it's you said $15. It's a 6 foot high, right? So I'll use like 15 plus $3 for work, so it's equal $18 for one fence, right? And then 18 times 294 equal 5,292.
Okay. Well, I mean, Jake, that sounds awesome to me. I'm just not really good at the shortcuts. And so I always have to like draw my pictures and go at it step by step. But it seems like you can do it that way. I'm not exactly sure exactly if it's going to work for you, but let's see if it works in the next one. Okay. But it sounds like you're on you know, the right track. Anybody else? Questions? None? So you ready to do it on your own? All right. So here we go. So the first thing is here's the piece of land. Okay, I'm going to give you the dimensions. The dimensions are, well, I don't want to do it that way. It'll be a pain. So the dimensions are 30 feet by 120 feet. Okay. And so here's how much. I'm going to give you a bunch of information. The bunch of information is, so we want to know the cost of the land. And so they're going to charge me $22. Oops, let me do a different color to make it better for you. They're going to charge me $22 per square foot of land. So how much is the land? Right. Then I want a fence around land with 8-foot opening. Okay. And the materials are going to cost me, let's see here, 8-foot opening, and it's going to be a 4-foot high fence. Right, and materials are going to cost me $2.25 square foot of fence, and labor is going to cost me $3.50 per linear foot. Okay, and so then I want to know is how much is the fence? Make sense to everyone?
Yeah, I have a question. It probably doesn't matter. I haven't done the numbers, but does it matter where the opening is? If it's on the 120 side or the 30 side, it doesn't make a
Nope.
difference?
It doesn't
Okay.
make a difference.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, I'm going to give you a couple minutes. I'm going to give you 4 minutes. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do it. Okay. Let's see who can get it done. All right. So let's get started here. So let's just, again, let me see here. Who has some answers? Let's throw some answers out here.
3,000.
How much?
3,000.
3,000.
$650 for the fence.
Anybody got anything different for the fence? And then how about for the land?
79,000.
200.
So somebody got 79,000. What else?
79,200.
79,200.
Yep.
Anybody else got anything else? All right. So first of all, let's see what we can do, my friends. All right. So the $22 per square foot of land, how much is the land? So first of all, we have to figure out, well, how many square feet of land is there, right? And how would we do that?
120 times 30.
Right? So 120 times 30 gives us what?
3,600.
Right? So there's 3,600 square feet of land. Does that make sense? Right? And so if we go back here, well, how much is the land? Right? We're going to say, okay, well, if we have 3,600 square feet of land times what? $22. And what do we get? 79,200. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So $79,200. Okay. So that's basically, that's how much the land cost. $79,200. Any questions on that? Everybody feels comfortable? All right. Now we wanted to put this wonderful fence around this land, right? And this fence was going to be 8 feet high. I mean, this fence was going to be 4 feet high with an 8-foot opening. So let's just say I want to put the opening over here. So that's going to be 8 feet. Okay, let's just say. And so each linear foot of fence, every linear foot, everybody's with me, is going to be what? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 feet high. And then the next linear foot, 1, 2, 3, 4 feet high. And so the next one is going to be 4 foot high and 4 foot high and 4 foot high. Does that make sense? And so if we think about it, there's 4 sides to this piece of land, right? And so this first one, if we were to start up here, right, we're going to notice, okay, we're going to go all the way down here. How many feet is that going to be? 120 linear feet, right? And then if we go across to this corner, how many feet of linear feet is that going to be?
30.
So it's a plus 30. And then if we go all the way up over here for this fence, how many feet is that going to be?
112.
112. Why? Because it's 120 minus the 8. So that's going to be 112. Does everybody follow me? And then if we go over here, and it didn't matter, it's going to be another 30. It didn't matter if you put the 8 feet over here or if you put the 8 feet over here, it's still 8 feet that you have to take out. So does that make sense to everyone? Does anyone have questions on that? All right. And so this whole thing equals how many linear feet of fence? Anyone? How many linear feet of fence?
1168. Is that what the 4 feet do?
I think it's 292.
292.
292, sorry, I didn't by the 4
No.
feet.
292 linear feet of fence. Okay. Now we have to calculate the materials. So to calculate the materials, we have to take the 292 linear feet of fence and multiply it times what?
225.
Well, I'm going to do this just because I want to figure out how many square feet of fence. I'm going to multiply it times 4 so that I can get the number of square feet of fence, right? Because the fence is going to be 4 feet high. So I'm going to multiply it times 4, which is going to give me 1,168 square feet of fence. Then I'm going to do the 1168 times 225 to get what? How much money is the materials,
$2,628.
right? So the materials are going to run me $2,628 for materials. For materials, I'll write that over here. Does that make sense to everyone? Anyone have questions on that? And then once again, I have 292 linear feet of fence. And I'm going to multiply it for the labor, which is $3 per linear foot. What am I going to multiply this times? 3.50, which is going to give me what?
1,022.
1,022. So labor is 1,022. Materials is what? 2,628. Total 0,563. 50. Did everyone get that? A few of you did, right? I know that a few of you did. So congratulations if you got it. If you didn't get it, what kind of questions do you have? Because I want to make sure now's the time. Ask me these questions. Who has questions about this?
Can I say something? I think it's silly, but Brooke helped me too when she said the linear is line, which helped. And then this is silly, but square feet, you always remember it's 2 numbers multiplied, right? And then cubic is 3 numbers multiplied.
Yep.
So that helped me. And then also I was listening to a YouTube thing. Per is always times, right?
I guess so. I don't know too much about that. Yeah. Per, I guess. I look as per.
Per is divide,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Per
I
is
look at
divide.
Times of is
Yeah.
divide, right?
Right. I think per is divide.
Yeah. But I get a little confused on that stuff myself. So that's why I kind of like draw things out. So before we move on to the next topic, who else has questions about this sort of thing? No one? Everybody feels comfortable? All right, so let's talk. So that was all about land and linear and area and so forth. Let's talk a little bit about the wonderful world of loan to value. So LTV, right? Let's talk about LTV, and then we're going to build upon this, right? LTV, what is that? Loan to value. So what is loan to value? What does that mean? Who knows what is loan to value? The loan to value ratio.
What you're buying it for versus what it's worth.
Kind of, but it's more like, okay, how much your loan, right? How much your loan is, right? How much the amount of loan, right? Or percentage of loan, right? Versus, let's say, the sales price or appraised value. That means how much they're going to basically give you, right? So for example, if you have to put down a 10% down payment, what would be your loan to value?
90%.
Right?
LTV.
So if the bank says, oh yeah, you need to put down 10% down payment, right? Your loan to value or LTV is going to be 90%, right? What if you have to put down 3.5% down payment?
What, 96.5?
Right? LTV is 96.5. Kiss FM, no, 96.5. So just remember, I mean, that's pretty typical because what most of the time is a regular FHA loan, 3.5%. Okay. Let's see what else I need to talk to you. So why does it matter about sales price versus appraised value?
Do they do whichever one's lower?
Right?
We always use the lower number.
Whichever is less is what the bank will let you borrow upon. Okay, meaning sales price or appraised value. Does that make sense to everyone? Whichever is less is what the bank will let you borrow upon. So if you want to buy a house for $100,000, but the bank only appraises it, or the appraiser only comes in at 95,000, they're going to base that loan upon the $95,000. Does that make sense to everyone? Who's got questions on that? So
I have a question.
go ahead.
I get that 100%, but I know like with how crazy the market's been and people have obviously been bidding over, asking and all that. And I know cash offers are completely different, but I have a client who sold her house, I believe for like $260 and it was on the market for $205. How does that work? They obviously can't go like with an FHA loan unless they bring cash to close or something, right?
Well,
How would that?
That's the whole point about being a little bit careful and making any kind of assumptions, because we don't know. We don't know if did the appraiser come in at 260? We don't know. Just because see what the seller asks for doesn't matter. It matters what it actually either appraised for or sold for.
Yeah, because I know it sold for the 260, which was crazy to me.
Right. So, I mean, we don't know what the appraised value came in at. So we don't know if they had to bring money to the closing or not. We don't know if maybe somehow the seller did a seller credit. There's so many different ways to go about it, right? So there's a lot of different options there. What other kind of questions maybe come up? Right? So remember, when they give you, there's always 3 numbers to think about. And they're always going to give you 2 out of the 3 when you're starting to talk about figuring out, okay, well, what's the loan amount, or what's the sales price, or what's the loan to value? They're always going to give you 3 different ones. 2 out of the 3. So the 3 different numbers that we're always going to be able to work around and kind of figure out: loan amount, right? Sales price, or appraised value, because these all work interchangeably, right? And then what? LTV. So as an example, okay, let's just say in this particular case, the loan amount is $127,000. Okay. I'm just making this off the cuff, so I don't know how these numbers are going to come out. And let's just say that the sales price is $160,000. Right? And like I said, I'm just kind of doing these off the cuff, right? So what is the LTV? How would we figure that out? Anybody have an idea?
$160,000, $127,000.
Oops, I changed the whole thing. I thought I was going to be able to change just one of them. Yeah, so basically we would take the loan amount, right, which is the 127,000, right, and divide it by what?
160.
Let's just say, for the sake of things, just to make it easy, sales price of 160,000. And that's going to equal what?
0.7937.
79%.
79%, 375.
right? So the LTV is, like you said, 79.38%. Okay, so let me ask you this question. Let's just round it up. Let's just make it easier and say that it's 80%. Okay, let's just say that for the sake of things, it's 80%. Let's round up. That's what it's going to be, right? So how much is, we can take it to the next step, is the down payment? How much is the down payment?
20%.
So where'd you get 20% from? 100%?
100 minus 80.
Right? I know, but I just want to say it out loud because I know not everybody will get it right away, and that's fine, right? So remember, the down payment is basically going to be 20%. Does everybody figure that? Right? Understand that? And it's 20% of what?
160.
160,000. So you're going to do what? 20% times 160,000. Does that make sense?
It's 32,000.
So who has questions on that? Does everybody get that? So let's do another one. I'll keep this here for a little bit, right? You remember, you know, there's different ways of doing it. You can do kind of like, you can do drawings if you want. Let's do one that's, does everybody want to do a drawing? Right? So example, let's say the sales price. So we're trying to figure out, let's say, the loan amount. Right? That's what we're trying to figure out. And so the sales price is, let's just say, $185,000. Right? And the loan to value is 15%. Right? How much is the loan amount?
$157,250.
So that's another 185,000 times 15%. So the loan amount is, oops, no, not exactly. Say that again.
Did you say the loan amount is 108, that the down payment is 15, right? So the loan amount would be 185 times 85%.
That's right. That's the sales price. And this right here is the loan, is actually the down payment. I'm sorry.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yep. Yep. Let me take that back. Whoa. Is 85%, right? So $185,000 times the 85%, which is the LTV, right? So the loan amount is how much? 27,000. Whoa, I did it again. I keep doing it to myself on my calculator. $157,250. Okay, so the numbers always work. Let's do another one because that one kind of like got all kind of confused out, right? So if we say that the loan amount is 190,000, right? And the appraised value is 188,000. Okay, follow me on this. The loan, they gave you approval for the loan up to 190,000. The appraised value came in at 188. Okay, you follow me? The down payment is 20%. How much is going to be how much money is your down payment? How much money is your down payment? So take a moment, say it verbally, and then we'll do it together. How much would your down payment be? Anybody have an answer out loud? Well, remember, just because they approved you for this loan of 190,000, it doesn't matter if the appraised value came in lower. So you would go by whichever one is lower, whether it's the sales price, the appraised value, or what you were approved for. So how much money is your down payment? Well, it's going to be the 188,000 because that's what the lender is going to take times the 20%, which would equal $37,600. So
So
anybody
then-
have questions on that?
But then would you add that to the appraised value? And then that's how much you owe the bank after, if it goes over 190?
Well, that's taking things to the next step. So if you want to buy it for 190 still, if you want the purchase price, because remember, there's a lot of little things that come into play that confuse things. If you want to purchase for 190, right? But you're only approved up to 188 because of the appraised value,
Oh,
right?
right.
You would technically have to add $2,000 to what you're bringing to the closing.
Right. Because they're not going to give you the 190. They're giving you the appraised. Okay.
Now I got another question for you. How much is the LTV? What's the percent? What is the LTV? I'm trying to jumble up your mind with all these different ideas. How much would your LTV be?
80%.
Still
80%.
80%. Down payment's 20.
And how do you get that? Yeah, because your down payment is 20%. All right, let's do another one. Let's say we're going to try to figure out the sales price. Okay, let's see, we're going to try to figure out the sales price. All right, so basically, the loan amount, the loan is $275,000. Okay, and the LTV is the loan to value is 96.5%. What is, let's just say the sales price and appraised price came in the same. What's the sales price? How would you figure that? What would you do? Now, is the sales price going to be the largest number here? Yes, no, maybe.
Yeah, supposed to be.
Right? So whenever, and I'm not saying this is a math shortcut, and I'm not saying it's going to work every single time, but I can tell you whenever I'm trying to work up to a larger number, I usually do division and it works because I know that basically $275,000, right, is what? Is basically 96.5% of a larger number, of a higher number. right? So I know that I can, to figure sales price out, I can do $275,000 because I want to get to a larger number is 96.5% of something bigger. I'm going to do division. Like I'm trying to get to a larger number, which is, let's say, so 96.5%, which is the same as what? 0.965, right? That's the same number. Everybody follow me? Because I went over 2 decimal points, and that's going to equal what? $284,974.09. So does that make sense, everyone? Do you want to do another one?
Hey Rob, I got
I have a question. So whenever it's, I mean, it's kind of straightforward that way, 96.5, but I always have a problem when, I don't know, you're trying to, you get the price of the house now and then it depreciated or something, or it appreciated. And so you have to change 96.5 to 3.5 and then do that number. I never know which number to do. I don't know. That confuses me.
Well, just remember so you said like 3.5%. Well, that's the down payment. So you always subtract it from 100 to get the LTV.
Okay.
So if they say, oh yeah, you got to put 10% down. Well, your loan to value for 10% is going to be 90%. So whenever they give you that smaller number, that's what they're expecting you to bring to the closing. That is your down payment.
Okay.
All right, let's just do another one just to make sure on this, but I'm going to switch it up again. So this is figuring out the sales price. Did somebody else have another question or comment before I erase this?
What would the
yeah.
down payment be? The down payment for this?
Yeah, so how would we figure out what would be the down payment?
So would it be 284,974 times 3.5%?
Or basically, if this is the amount of the loan, right, wouldn't it be technically the down payment would be 284,974.09 minus 275,000, which is the down payment,
Mm,
right? Well, let's just do it really quick. 974.09 minus 275,000 equals 9,974.09. And that is how much? That's 3.5%, right? 3.5%. You know, because remember,
Wait.
96 plus 3.5. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that's mean down payment plus loan equal sales price.
So you said what?
I'm saying like down payment plus loan equal sales price or no?
Usually, yes. I mean, could somebody come up with an example? Oh, well, what if you have a seller credit? You know, if you take it, you can always take it to the next step. But yeah, that's the basic, right? The basic is the amount of loan plus the down payment is going to equal the sales price. Yep, that's the basic.
LTV number is a maximum 100%, right? They're no more than 100%.
That's not true because there are programs available where you can get 120% because they'll give you 20% to do renovation loan, or they'll give you even more than that. So you can get renovation loans where they're going to give you even more than the sales price or appraised value.
And the bank likes a higher LTV?
Well, the higher the LTV, is it riskier or less riskier for the bank?
Oh, more risky because your down payment's less.
That's right.
They want a lower LTV.
Risky, R-I-S-K, risky for lender. See, that's why they want you to put down more. This person's only putting down 3.5%. right? That's for like our basic FHA loan. Of course, there's all different ones available. There's no money down. There's 3% conventional, 5%. There's all kinds of stuff. But let's just talk about the basic FHA loan. You put down 3.5%. Well, you're a risk to the bank because you're only given 3.5%. So you're a little bit of a risk. So that's why you ultimately are going to have to pay a monthly and a closing at the closing FHA PMI cost, right? You know, a mortgage insurance fee. Okay. Does that make sense to everyone? I know there's a lot, but I think it's kind of interesting, right? It's kind of interesting. So let's do a couple more. We have a few more minutes. Let's do a few more things that I want to go over with you, right? So let's talk about figuring interest. Oh man, let's figure out interest. So, and what we want to talk about is, you know, the amount of interest that's going to be paid on a monthly basis. So what does that really mean? So if you have a 30-year fixed loan, right? You have a 30-year fixed, you're paying the same amount for principal, P&I, principal and interest is basically the amount of that is basically fixed for 30 years. If that's what you get, a 30-year loan, right? Now, we're not talking about taxes and insurance, because are those numbers going to change? Definitely. Those numbers are going to change. Okay. And at the same time, isn't the principal and interest number going to change? Because technically, if we think about time, right? This is the timeline. We think about the timeline. Well, your payment might be for principal and interest, I'm just making it up, $600 a month, right? But over time, you're going to be paying basically, this number is going to go down. And let's just say this number is going to go up. So this number, this red that's going down over, you know, every payment, boom, 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 boom. What number is that that's going down? Anybody know?
Is it the principal?
No, the interest. Every payment you pay less interest. Every payment, even though you're paying 600, 600, 600, 600, 600, every payment is less interest and it's more what? Principal. That's the whole thing about there being an amortization schedule, right? Is that every payment you pay less interest and you pay more principal. So does that make sense to you? Who's got questions on that? Because you got to understand the concept of it.
So you can pay just on the principal, right? If you wanted to, like extra.
Most likely, yes. And it depends on the bank and depends on how hard they want to make it for you to do that. But yes, the way I kind of look at things, and I'm not trying to give anybody financial advice, is that they're giving you up to 30 years to pay it off. You can pay it off early if you want to. Does it make sense? Every single financial analyst will give you a different idea. There will be some that will tell you, oh yeah, you should definitely pay it off so you could be debt free. And there will be others that tell you, oh, well, if you can make 12% in the stock market and you're only paying 4% or 3% for interest rate, then I could take that money and make you 9%. Wouldn't that be better? And blah, 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 blah. So we don't want to get into that because that's financial advice. This is more about, okay, so we know that every month, right, we're going to pay 600, 600, 600, 600, 600, and we're paying less interest and more principal. We're paying towards the principal. That's how that works. Okay, so anybody have questions on that so far? So let's talk about some of these numbers and how they will work, right? So if we, as an example, we had a house, right? Let's just say we had a house. And this house sold for $250,000. I'm gonna make it a weird number, I'm sorry. $225,000, right? And the lender approved us for 90% loan at 3.5% for 30 years, right? Let's just say that the appraisal came in at 223,000. Okay. How much interest do we have to pay to the lender in the first payment? All right, my friends, is this getting you a little bit sweaty? Are you like, oh my gosh, what's he doing? He's starting to get a little bit crazy.
I just
Right.
threw up. No.
Right. So the first thing that we want to figure out is, well, how much is the loan amount? That's what we want to figure out first. How much is the loan amount?
2,000 or 200,700.
So how do we get that?
90% times 223.
Yep.
So we're going to take what? We're going to take the sales price or the appraisal price.
Appraisal.
Okay. We're basically going to take the appraisal. Why?
Because it's lower.
Lower. So we're going to do 223,000 times how much? 90%. Now, again, just to kind of clarify things, well, how much was your, not how much, but what percentage is your down payment?
10.
10%, right? So again, it would be 10% of what? 10% of $223,000 plus the difference of the 2,000, but that's a different story. 223,000 times 90%. So the loan amount is what? $200,700. Anybody have questions on that? Now, how are we going to figure out the interest? Well, the first thing when we talk about interest, we have to know two numbers. We have to know the amount of the loan and we have to know the interest rate. So again, the loan amount is $200,700 times what?
3.5.
3.5%, which is the same as 0.035. Okay. So that's $200,700 times 0.035 gives me what? $7,024.50. Now, what is that number? That $7,024.50.
That's 1 year, right?
That's right. That's the annual interest.
You have to divide it.
Right? So we have to take that and, like you said, divide it by what? 12. Right? And that's going to equal, so 7,024 divided by 12 gives me what? $585.38
Month.
for interest of the first month. And I want to make that clear. I should put it in caps. First month. So now, remember, that's the first payment. How much is the interest for the second month? let's say the monthly payment, I should have put this in over here. I'm gonna put it actually right here. Let's say the monthly P&I, principal and interest, is $847. Second month, how much interest? So how would we figure that out?
So you have to take the P&I and minus the interest.
Right? So if our payment, and this, remember, our payment, so Myrna, you were right on, our payment of $847 is for 30 years. Right? Let's just say that's for 30 years. That's what it calculated out to. I don't know if that's what it calculated out to. I didn't look at the mortgage factor chart. That's a whole nother unit we go over. Some of you, if you've been over that unit already, you know what the mortgage factor chart is. If you haven't gone over it yet, don't worry about it. We're going to go over it in class. But let's say for the sake of numbers, we have to pay $847 principal and interest for $847 for 30 years. So in the second month, how much interest would we pay? Well, we got to figure that out. So if we have to pay $847 a month, right? And we paid interest of $585.38 the first month, right? Well, how much did we pay towards the loan?
$550, $750.
Like $200 something.
Okay, so how would we figure that out? Well, basically, for the second month, because remember, once we paid this off, right? Once we paid this of interest, well, we have to figure out how much did we pay towards principal that first month. Principal payment on first month has to equal what? $847 minus the 585.38. And this is how much we paid towards our principal. Which is what? $261.62. That's how much we paid towards principal. So take a moment and just absorb that. Does that make sense? This 585.38 we paid for interest. This 261.62 we paid for principal. So now for the second month, when it really comes down to it, what is our loan amount for the second month?
The first loan amount minus the principal.
So our original loan amount minus what we paid towards the principal. So this is our loan amount, $200,700 minus 261.62 equals $200,438.38. That's how much we owe, right? So we made one payment. We owned our house for 1 month. We made this principal and interest payment of $847, right? 585 went towards interest, 261.62 went towards principal. So now we're here on our second month. Well, here's how much we owe. So what are we going to do now? We're going to say, okay, we're going to do once again, $200,438.38 times what?
3.5.
3.5%. 200, I'm doing it on my calculator. Times 3.5% gives me what? $7,438.38. $15.34 of annual interest if it was, but it's not going to be, because remember, every month we're paying a little bit more down on the principal. So we're going to take this number, we're going to divide by 12. And what's that give us that we paid for interest?
584.61.
Right? $581.61. Right?
584.
Interest. Oh, 584. Thank you. Interest paid on second month. Right? And then, if you think about it, principal payment on second month is what?
263.
How do you figure that out? $847, which is the total that's locked in, minus the 584.61 equals what? So $847 minus 584.61 equals 262.39 towards principal. So you see how that goes? I just want you to absorb this for one moment. The first month we paid $847 principal and interest, right? So how did that break out? This amount of interest, this amount of principal. The second month, look what happened to the interest. Went down just a little bit because we're basing it off of a lower loan amount, right? And then this is how much we paid towards principal, which is a little bit higher. Yeah, you might be like, it's only $1. What's the big deal? But that's how amortization works. You kill it off slowly. Most of the interest is up front. So does that make sense to everyone? Who has questions on this specifically? All right, my friends. So we're going to go over a couple of things before the class ends, but this right here is what I mainly wanted to teach you, some of the major concepts as far as the math goes. And hold on one second. So, some of the things to think about is really just don't let it get to your mind. Try to think of the concept, try to make your pictures, try to write it out, and use a calculator that you're used to using so that you're not going to be nervous about it every step of the way. So that's pretty much the math concepts we're reviewing for today.